And I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech with Peter and Vanugo. And today I'm joined by Sia. I'm not sure the best way to say the last name, Sia Karamalegos, hopefully.
Yes, very good.
Yeah, good to have you, Sia. And I'm looking forward to having a wonderful chat with you today. So, Sia is a freelance web performance engineer. It's the first time I'm actually talking to her, so I will leave her to do uh, a good justice to our introduction.
Oh, sure. So yeah, I currently I'm back to freelancing as a web performance engineer and web developer. Most recently, I was at Shopify for 2 years on the web performance team that works in professional services, where we optimize merchant websites, but also take the learnings that we found in our work and apply them back to the platform whenever possible. So, and then before that, I was freelance again. So it's come full circle again. I would say full circle, but I've done a lot of other things in the past too. So,
So,
but yeah, that's me.
which do you enjoy more, doing freelance or working for someone?
Oh yeah. So freelance is nice because you're your own boss, and
I think I lost your audio a bit there. I think I lost you. I,
can you hear me now?
yeah, I can hear you. I think I hear some scratchy sound, so I thought maybe I could do some noise compression from here, and I think it affects your audio after I turn it on and off. And I'm sorry
What?
for that.
It's weird because the app says that I'm talking, like it turns green when I talk, like it's getting my data, but for some reason it's not coming through.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a bit buggy, but I will just not touch that sentence anymore.
Okay. So yeah, where were we?
Yeah, we are talking about if you prefer working as a freelancer or working for a company.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure how much you heard what I said, but I said I enjoy like it's less stress and you get to do more of the actual work when you're freelance, which is nice. But of course, a salary is always nice for more stability. But if you can handle the instability, freelancing can be nice. But I also have a background in business and other things. So it's like I know how to run my own business. So that part's easier. Whereas like if that's all new to you, that might be a bit of a challenge.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to switch to freelance, so I'm trying to learn a bit how to move to that phase or maybe go into building my own product like maybe a SaaS. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's a different world than just getting a regular salary.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I would love to before we go into performance audit, what how would you define web performance from your point of view?
From my point of view, web performance is the part of user experience that's related to the behavior of the website. So, like the speed of the load, or I guess a little bit of how Google currently defines it, but so it's not just like the loading speed, but also like when you interact with a site or the other frustrations like the layout shift and when you're trying to do things on that site, is it an enjoyable experience? That's not related. That's not specifically accessibility or or design.
Uh, but would you
Mm.
consider accessibility part of it,
Not
or
a part of web performance. I think accessibility is its own thing. They can interact together. And actually, design has a big impact on performance as well. So, this is a good question because it actually brings up that performance is actually part of it is psychology. So, there's perception in performance. You can actually have a slow website, but if you change the design of it, you can actually impact whether they feel whether the website is slow or not. So yeah.
I guess that's why we have a lot of loading spinners these days.
Yeah, although those can be frustrating too if you like overly do too many loading spinners.
Yeah, fake the performance.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's not really yeah. um, I guess to summarize all of that, it's the user experience part that is key because you don't care about web performance for web performance sake. You care
Yeah,
about it because it keeps people on your web page. They're happy users. They convert whatever that means for your website, whether that's purchasing an item or signing up for a newsletter or getting whatever job done on your site that you would like them to get done. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So I'm not sure if you've prepared something to show, but I would have loved to ask before talking about auditing more like what are the different aspects of the web performance. Most of what I know is usually core web vitals, or recently I see INP. But would you like to talk about the actual details of web performance, or do you have some thing to show or slide before we talk
Um,
about audits?
I don't have slides, but I think as we talk about audits, like this will come out. So
Okay.
I did start a Figma board to like jot things down. I'll just share my screen. Hmm. Can you see me sharing the screen, or do I need to do something
No,
extra?
I can see the screen.
Is it in the? Oh yeah,
Web
yeah, it's in the.
performance auditing.
Yeah, yeah. I do have the YouTube chat up, so I don't have the LinkedIn version, but if anyone chats in there, I'm happy to answer questions too. So, like, when you think about measuring web performance, like, let's just start with the tools. Like, what are the tools you think of?
I think of Lighthouse.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, that's gonna be the first one, right? Um,
Yeah,
so
but
there's Lighthouse.
I've also seen, I think it's called page speed. If
PageSpeed Insights.
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of similar. Um, And I don't know if people are really chatting in the chat, but like
no,
you're
no,
welcome to drop some others in there. Have you heard of web page tests?
yeah, I heard of web page, but I don't think I've ever used it
Used
directly.
it, yeah, yeah. And then there's uh have you heard of tools like uh speed curve,
Speed curve,
rum
yeah, I've heard of
vision, like debug bear?
Rump Vision recently because when I started this YouTube channel, so I started seeing things about ROM reuser monitoring, which I never used to hear of before now. Also the bugbear, but I never really tried.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about those. There's also something called the Chrome User Experience Report. Uh, there's also like dev tools. So in dev tools, there's a lot of things like the networking tab or the performance panel. Like outside of Lighthouse, Lighthouse is also a part of dev tools. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wrap these, and this section is going to be called lab. And then this one's going to be called.
I think.
I didn't want to do that. Let's do this. And we'll call this one Rum. Have you heard of Rum?
Yeah. Real user monitoring, I think.
Yeah. So we'll make these two different colors. You can see I have one of them like overlapping both. um, so most people, when they think of web performance, they think of Lighthouse.
We have a chart, I think.
Oh, wow. Oh, hello, Henri. I heard web page test. Yes, Henri used to work for web page test. But
okay.
yeah, or I guess Catch Point. So a lot of people who aren't already experienced in web performance, they think of Lighthouse, right? And its cousin, PageSpeed Insights. These are what we call lab tools. So what you do is you just go, let's just open up PageSpeed Insights. So PageSpeed Insights is the same thing as Lighthouse, except it has a little extra thing at the top of it.
Okay.
So what's a website we want to play with? Maybe one that doesn't have great performance. That's popular. Just anything.
ChatGPT.
Chat. Do they have? But is that the website? Like,
I think it's
what's
the
the
app.
landing page?
Or
Oh,
maybe
here we go. Here, we'll do the landing page.
because there was some debate about how fast it was, and why they moved from Next.js to Remix. So it just came to mind easily.
Oh, okay. So just ignore the top part of this. Down here, so what you can see is I dropped in the link, and you can get here, you can get a Lighthouse report in DevTools too, but I'm just going to use PageSpeed Insights.
Okay.
So you can see there's this stuff at the top. It says discover what your real users are experiencing. We'll talk about that in a second. Down here is Lighthouse. It's the exact same thing as Lighthouse in your browser. It's just it runs with specific emulation. So you can see it's emulated Moto G Power phone with Lighthouse version and slow 4G throttling. When you run it on your computer, by default, it's going to use your computer settings, I think. Actually, I forgot what it does in DevTools because I don't use it in DevTools as much. If you want a more like standardized experience, I would just run it in PageSpeed Insights. So like if you test multiple times, it will usually be kind of the same settings. But this data is, hey, the server went out, fetched the page, and then recorded all these metrics, and then checked a bunch of audits. These are a bunch of audits. And then, so like if you think about it, well, that's interesting. But is this representative of how real users experience that site?
Not really, because it's been emulated.
Yeah, it's being emulated and it's like a one-time thing. So at the top of the page, we have something different. And this is real user, it's field data or real user data or RUM data. There's so many different words for both of these. And this is actually from the Chrome User Experience Report. So this is publicly available data. If it's like a site with enough traffic, you'll get this. If your site doesn't have that much traffic, you might not get this section on it. So yeah.
Is it like a web archive thing that it keeps collecting this data from popular websites?
It is Chrome itself is collecting this data. It's only if if you want to know all the details, what you can look up is the Chrome User Experience Report. And this talks about like what's counted and what's not counted, but it's data collected in Chrome, but they're careful to like only collect it if it's allowed. So there's some caveats in there. But it is only Chrome data. So also, like if most of your users are on iPhones, it's not collecting that. Because Chrome on iPhone is not really Chrome, for those of you that don't know that yet. Oh, wait, I'm getting an echo through you now.
I think my mic switched. So.
Oh, Audrey, I just saw ESPN on there. Oh well. Okay, I think I'm not hearing the echo, so we're good. So anyway, this is the real user data. And so this is usually when it comes to real user data, they show us like what's called the P75. So if you know about, like averages and means and median is like the middle user. P75 is just the 75th percentile. So the way to read this is 75% of users get a experience the largest contentful paint at 2.1 seconds or less. But if we look down here in our Lighthouse report, you can see that with these emulation settings, the largest contentful paint was 5 seconds. So that wasn't really representative of real user experience. But both of these have value. And let's go back to this. So there's multiple tools you can use for lab testing. Lighthouse, DevTools, web page tests. Some of these will also embed some real user data too. But fundamentally, what they are doing is what's called a lab test. So it's like a single run and detailed data about that single run. These are all RUM tools. I put PageSpeed Insights across both, right? Because it has Lighthouse, but it also has the Chrome User Experience Report. These are paid tools, SpeedCurve, RUM Vision, Debug there. You can also roll your own with something called the Web Vitals. I mean, there's actually multiple ways you can do it. I should have put Akamai in there too. There's multiple vendors for real user data, but I hate
Why
it when
Akamai?
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Said why Akamai? I just know them for
Um,
CDN.
Oh yeah, Akamai has Impulse too. So Akamai Impulse is their, I think is their product for real user monitoring. But this Web Vitals NPM package is one way you could roll your own and like send it to your Google Analytics and stuff. But then you have to come up with the charts and the notifications and all that other stuff. So I'm actually more of a fan of using a paid tool. Um, just because it's easier, and I can show you some screenshots. But anyways, so both of these things are important. But I will say that, like, if you want to make your job easier, you should start with RUM. RUM, what it can do is give you directional clues. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to show you another way. So this is Trio/site speed, which is just another way to look at Chrome User Experience Report data. I dropped that in the YouTube chat too. So this is just like more detailed data from the Chrome User Experience Report. There's some other, they actually have a dashboard too in here somewhere. Here we go. So if you go in here, you can also find the dashboard for your own site. But I like this tool because it loads really fast and it's just there. You can also like flip between mobile and desktop. So if we look at this website, you enter like the domain name and we can see several metrics, right? We see time to first byte, first contentful paint, large contentful paint. So we're getting the ABCs, right? TTFB, FCP, LCP, IMP, and cumulative layout shift.
Lots
And then
of
there's some other
acronyms.
data down here too. So what we can do, and what I like about real user data is I feel like it's easier for people entering performance to kind of to start understanding what's going on. Like you don't have to know all the technical parts of how browsers quite work yet before you can start pinpointing, oh, what's wrong, right? So without knowing anything, if you're looking at this data, what looks like the worst thing going on here? They have
The
little icons.
LCP?
Actually, well, interaction to next paint is the thing that they're failing the most at, but they are also failing at that. So what are these metrics? These top three are related to speed. their loading speed. Time to first byte is the amount of time it took the server to respond or to return the first byte of information to the browser. Roughly speaking, it's not a great metric for various complex reasons, but it kind of gives us an idea. Um, First contentful paint is when the first, like it says, like content on the page shows up. There's some more caveats in there, but like if you're just starting out, just think of it, oh, this is the first time something paints. Largest contentful paint is when roughly the largest item in the viewport is rendered. So this is the one that is the core web vital part of loading speed. And that's reasons Google has their reasons for choosing that. There's other things you can do too. You can actually come up with custom metrics, but right now we're looking at real user data that's freely available. Um, we have those three, but then we also have these other two. Cumulative layout shift is how much the page unexpectedly moved around. So like think about when you're reading an article and then some ad pops in and it shifts all the content down and now you've lost your place while reading. It's very frustrating, right? So this is what that's
Yeah.
measuring. It's that like user experience part of layout shift. Now something like you clicked something like an accordion and it expanded, that's an expected layout shift. That wouldn't penalize you. It's the things that are moving around unexpectedly. Um, and then interaction to next paint has to do with behavior. Like I'm interacting with a page, I'm trying to click this button, but the action is taking a long time to run. And so like it's essentially the amount of time it takes for the next paint to happen to the screen. And all of these have much more technical terms and caveats, but like if we're roughly trying to understand what's going on, that's good enough.
So
So we have things,
for the
and go ahead.
for the INP, is
Uh-huh.
it related to maybe if the let's say if it uses JavaScript, but then the JavaScript has not fully loaded to handle the event click, or is this maybe when you are navigating between pages and it's
There's
waiting for
multiple.
data?
Well, there's multiple reasons why IMB can go wrong, but the idea is we start first with the high level view of what's going on, and then we dive deeper and deeper and deeper. So we start at the top, and we can see for this website, the things it struggles with, they have like color coding and shapes. So time to first byte is green, but first contentful paint and largest contentful paint are yellow. And then IMP is red. So IMP is the worst, but they also have some issues with first contentful paint and largest contentful paint. This means that I don't need to bother worry about server timing, most likely. Now, if you make this faster, it makes the other things faster too. But usually your issues are going to be related to other things. So then we can dive deeper. So once you actually have a tool that does more real user data, you can actually get a bit more data on large contentful paint. Actually, all of these. The core web vitals are these three: LCP, CLS, and interaction to next paint. But sorry, apparently my dogs think there's stranger danger.
That's
But
fine.
before we dive into that, you can actually do there's you can kind of do a I don't want to call it fake. So there's this thing called LCP subparts, but you can actually kind of get an idea of what's going on with loading speed just with the metrics we have here. Because remember what I said, time to first byte is related to like more like server speed. So if this is
Yeah.
green, then you're like, okay, my back end is responding fairly fast. Maybe I don't have to worry about that. But now first contentful paint is yellow. So there's different things that affect different parts of this. First contentful paint is usually slow first contentful paint is usually caused by like render blocking resources, for example. And usually in practice, I found that's usually JavaScript blocking the render for whatever reason. And then largest contentful paint. So like we can actually see here they have an issue with both first contentful paint and largest contentful paint. Although first contentful paint is like right on the edge, and this is only a little bit more. So they can work on making this a little bit faster, but then this may or may not come down enough, right? Like this one's like right on the edge. This one's 0.3 seconds off. So there's also some other issue going on with largest contentful paint. That could be a whole lot of other issues. That could be, for example, they're lazy loading their largest contentful paint image. And that's actually something that can be hard for Lighthouse to catch. Um, so once you've kind of pinpointed these areas, you can dive deeper specifically for that issue rather than trying to fix everything at once. And that's my biggest issue with Lighthouse is that, so for OpenAI.com Chat GPT, you see we have like all of these different, like they always say properly sized images. And this is like, honestly, this is usually a micro optimization. People always say to optimize their images, but like that's actually not going to change the experience on this site most likely. Um, I bet, yeah, there is a lot of JavaScript, but this isn't really necessarily telling me how that's impacting first contentful paint and largest contentful paint. Because we can see here, similarly for, and I could actually. The only thing is over here you can only use a domain, but over here you can see like this is openai.com/chatgpt. And you can see this URL versus origin. So the origin is actually worse in time to first byte, but better in IMP. So sometimes you'll get a specific page on your site that has enough traffic to get this, which is nice. You can view this information here without using the API. So in this URL, oh look, we have a time to first byte that's 0.7, which is good, but then their first contentful paint and their largest contentful paint are like almost exactly the same. So it's almost like everything's getting rendered at once. So something's blocking the render. So I would say if they made FCP faster, LCP would probably end up faster too. Although LCP is green technically for 75% of users, but IMP is their biggest issue, most likely because they're using too much JavaScript. Um, and that can
So
be for
the way I
various
see
reasons.
you,
Yep.
the way I see you describe it is more like trying to find the correlation between if you fix this part of the like maybe if you fix FCP, how would it affect LCP and which metric to focus on? That's how I see you
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to draw the
Well, these go
correlation.
in order, right? So, like, say, pretend like, actually, yeah, pretend like this was like 3 seconds and this was 5 seconds. You would never be able to have a good LCP without the FCP coming down. So they are stepwise. So you can say, oh, if my time to first byte is good, okay, I can skip that. But if it's bad, you're never going to get good the rest of the metrics until you fix that. So there's steps in that path. This is a basic version of like, or the, I don't want to say the bootleg version of optimizing for LCP when you don't have LCP subparts. There's also this cool thing called LCP subparts where actually I don't know if there's enough data in here. Oh yeah, there is. Um, so there's these subparts to LCP you can get now too, which tells you specifically for that largest contentful paint image how much of that time was spent on time to first byte versus the resource load delay, which is the amount of time before the image started downloading, and then how much time it actually took to download. So like this is representative of how large the image is, and you can see this is only like 10% of time, so it's not the biggest thing. And then the element render delay. So this is like the image is waiting there, but it hasn't been rendered by the browser for whatever reason, usually JavaScript. But yeah, and I don't
But
not all of JavaScript. It's just that we overuse it. Like we use it as a crutch for a lot of things, and they don't need to be JavaScript. um,
yeah, but we
so
can't live
yeah,
without it.
Yeah. So like if you have a tool that can give you LCP subparts, then that's great. If you don't, you can kind of still do the bootleg version with time to first byte versus first contentful paint versus largest contentful paint. If it's an e-commerce site, what I've done, um, I worked at Shopify, right? And I wrote a lot of stuff on their blog. And I have this article about common causes for slow loading on Shopify Liquid storefront. So Shopify and also a lot of e-commerce sites will have a lot of the similar issues. And I talk about these performance gaps. So you can see like these examples where, let me make this bigger. So for example, this has a great time to first byte, but look at that FCP, it's 4.8 seconds. So this LCP is never going to be good until this is good. Like this is the biggest problem metric. This is happening only 0.3 seconds afterwards. So we know here that FCP is the primary problem, so I can make the FCP faster. And then I have various examples in here. And then like what are the issues? So time to first byte issues are like server issues on Shopify. They don't have to worry about that as much, except for if they have complex liquid. And then for FCP issues, a lot of time it's like render blocking resources like JavaScript. But then the way a lot of sites are built are not necessarily like one developer writing all the code. They can be website builders like Shopify or WordPress or like other things like that. And so people will
A
add other
workflow.
third parties or tools, right? So they might have anti-flicker snippets, like if you're doing A/B testing, that can impact it. Or connections to multiple domains for critical assets. So this is the stuff that's harder to learn. This is the step of going to lab testing. Like we've seen the data, and now it's giving us directional clues. Like, hey, there's going to be a whole lot of things that could be. These are just the common ones for e-commerce, right? And then I have ones for LCP
Mhm.
here. I can drop this in the chat too, just in case it's helpful. Um, but this is the part, like if you're new to performance, this is the part that takes longer to learn. Like digging into the data and finding, like, oh, hey, I need to like look at this or I need to look at this. It's easier to do that. The rest of it's going to take time. It's going to take trial and error, research, and then experience, like pattern matching. It's the harder part of it. But once you get better at and also the skills of using the tools. So like web page tests, for example, it's a great tool, but it is overwhelming the first time you use it. So I'll just start it. Oops. I'll just start a test. It takes a while to run, but we'll put this in here. I'm going to use these simple configuration settings, which is probably not very realistic for most people using ChatGPT, but we'll still do that. Yeah, it's kind of like Lighthouse. The default settings are like a very mediocre phone. Um, which I mean, if you think about your user base too, it's like you can, if you're, for example, like a government website that needs to be accessible to everyone, then you're gonna have to be a lot more performant. People are using uh, all sorts of devices, not just, like most of developers, we have nice phones or nice laptops, MacBooks and whatnot, and it's not what like your average person has. And then people with less they'll even use, like, they'll find an old like gaming device and they'll use that to load a site and it just loads like extremely poorly, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not really meant for that. It's outdated, and but you still need to provide, for example, hurricane relief. Like I was living in New Orleans, and I remember it was part of the FEMA website wouldn't load, and we had like no, our internet towers were also affected. So like I was even on a really good phone and normally good internet, but of course we were only on cell service, and I could never get the app to load. So it's very important in cases like that. If you're just selling stuff, if you're
Yeah.
just promoting capitalism, like I don't know, like maybe it's okay if it's not the fastest, but like yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder if how many businesses really care about this kind of speed. The type of devices their users are using, the speed of the internet. Because
Mm,
I grew up in Nigeria,
yeah, yeah.
and I remember those days when I tried to use some website and it takes very long to load because maybe we are just on a few megabits download
Yeah,
or bytes, and it takes so long. And then we were always at the point when I joined, started using a lot of JavaScript. We're talking about offline first because some incident like the one during the time of Ebola outbreak where some people had to go to some remote villages to do some works, and there's usually no
there's no
internet
coverage.
there and you have to
Yeah.
make it, yeah, work better. So those, it brings back memory about trying to consider those kind of people when you build your websites.
Exactly. Like, and I mean, usually you want more access because, like, for whatever purpose your website is fulfilling, you usually want more access because it'll get you more of whatever you want, whatever your
Yeah.
conversions are. Um,
Also, even if you are in a developed world, like you are in London, but you are in London Metro and they have a bad cell
exactly.
service.
I know. And then, so like Europe and parts of Asia have very dense zones, so people are kind of used to that. But like you said, in like the tube or in a subway somewhere, or with your own conference Wi-Fi. But the U.S. is also quite spread out, right? Like in our cities or on the eastern seaboard, it's dense. But once you go outside of that, internet is not so good. Like once you go outside the cities, it's the same problem where you have a large geographical area and it's hard to serve that with a faster network. So like my mom only lives like 5 miles outside of her town in Texas, and she also like there's not fast internet there, so it's hard to access sites that are to what brand phones did Peter use? I don't remember. Oh, yeah. All right. Like what
Oh, for
kind of
me, some kind of old Android phones and also like Motorola's.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't remember the brand specifically, but it was very old mobile phones. Then we
Yeah,
were also debating like WAP phones and stuff like that. Sometimes I have to go to the wardrobe to get better connectivity. So
yeah. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Maybe Ezzy.
easy.
I don't know what's going on with the sound. Sorry. Normally I don't have an issue with this microphone.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Um,
if it's also from my part streaming. I don't know, but I also don't hear it clearly from the mic. But I'm not sure what the issue is.
um, okay. So this is web
So
pages.
what's
If
Waffle House Index?
oh yeah, Henri's gonna well um there's a specific, I don't know the specific definition, but the backstory is Waffle House is actually quite good at hurricane response. Also, HEB in Texas, it's a grocery store chain. Um, they're if Waffle Houses won't close until it gets really bad. So you know, like if how many like Waffle Houses are open, like how bad a storm is gonna be.
Okay.
But yeah, like they actually have different menus too, based on like how much like if the electricity is still on, like you know what. I actually don't know if they can serve anything in that case, but they have like they changed their menu to be limited menus. It's quite interesting to look at that. Henri can probably explain it better, but he's not on here, so I can't rely on him.
Henry, maybe you should get on the podcast also in the future.
Oh yeah, we should definitely do that. Um, so yeah, this is web pages, and it can be overwhelming, but it's quite useful. Actually, if I go to this Web Vitals view, so this is like okay, we've figured out that actually for this site their JavaScript was the worst, and the tools in here are not as great at the JavaScript part. But I can show you some things. Uh, What's cool is here we can see the largest consumable paint is this text, which is actually partially why it's so fast. This is a rare website where text is the LCD. Um, but this is interesting. I've never seen a 400 response on the main line. Um, but anyways, the this is actually more interesting when it is an image, but it will show us like where the image downloaded and stuff, and then you can see the image itself, and it gives you lots of information which can help you figure out what's going on. This one's not so interesting though. This will also not be so interesting. There's a little bit of layout shift. It's really cool because you can like hover and move. This is actually one of my favorite tools for layout shift because I can tell from experience, I know this is their font coming in, right? Like the font just slightly changes, but it's such a small amount, like I would not worry about this. You want cumulative layout shift to be less than zero point 0.1. This is much less than zero point 0.1. And also that layout shift, it's barely a layout shift. That one's pretty good. Uh, this looks like some styling and coming in late. You see like the nav bar shifting back and forth?
Yeah.
Yeah, something weird is happening there. And if this is a
Or maybe
if this is a
could it also
like
be
a
the fonts? Maybe the fonts got bigger.
no, the font is the same. You can see like the padding has changed. The
Mm.
padding and there's lines now, like either lines or border black shadows. But again, it is quite small. This is a little bit annoying though. I'd still try to fix it because this is also it's the nav bar, so it might be on every page or multiple pages, which would have a bigger impact. See, I talked about storms. They have become a great predictor of storm intensity. Yeah, that's true. Um, and then total blocking time, which total block. One thing I didn't mention with IMP, remember that's the one that's more usually due to JavaScript. It can be for other issues too, like
Yeah.
animations and stuff. But usually JavaScript. But it's interaction to next paint, so it actually requires a user interaction. If you're running a lab test, you can't test IMP directly unless you're like opening a page in DevTools and clicking around and seeing what the IMP is. But if I just throw it into a tool, you can't do that. So what we have instead is this other metric called total blocking time. This is the amount of time the main thread was blocked during page load. So this is usually due to long-running JavaScript. So we can see that the script origins, most of it's coming from OpenAI.com. So this is like their script. I will tell you one thing I like in Lighthouse. I forgot. I wanted to talk about this, but then I got sidetracked. If you go down here and click View Tree Map, it's kind of cool because it gives you a tree map of all the JavaScript dependencies. Now, this is not the scripting time. This is like the total size, but I can see that yeah, they're using Next.js, and it's like, it's hard. I know
Wow.
the font on that is smaller. I think if I make it bigger, it doesn't actually make the fonts any bigger. Oh, no, it does. Um, but you can see it's like chunks or whatever. So like this is like one of their chunks from their build. That's another chunk. And then we have Stripe, which is quite large. Does Stripe actually need to
1.4 megabits.
be page?
Megabyte.
Why do they have Stripe on this page? Like, here's another thing too.
Maybe
Like, you don't need it. Oh yeah, start now. Yeah, that goes to pricing. Try ChatGPT. Yeah, there's no reason for Stripe to be on this page because you're not actually doing a payment on this page. So for some reason they still have that. So it tells you things like that, like and then Google Tag Manager. This is some more. If you have so let's do GitHub instead because GitHub's actually funner. Yeah, sure. We'll just
I
do
think
my.
OpenAI should pay you for this because they are getting free consultation.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really tell them specifically what was going on, other than, yeah, you don't. So not to rip on JavaScript folks, but this page does not need a framework. It's just a landing page. There's no massive interaction going on right here. There's no reason why this can't just be HTML, CSS, and then the JavaScript that you need to do fancy things like whatever this thing is right here, right? Like these are just links, buttons, and text and images. Like there's no reason for this to be a Next.js app. Like a Twitter or a Mastodon or like a Facebook. Yeah, like that makes sense. It's like an application. This is a website.
Maybe to their defense, they are using statically pre-rendering, or I don't know the term they use for those things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they do that, but then it's still like a shit ton of JavaScript because clearly, like,
Yeah,
wait, what's in the? It's 4 megabytes, 4.8 megabytes total. 2.4 megabytes unused for load. So it also kind of tells you down here like how much was used during load. But as you interact with the page, those numbers go up. So it's not like I wouldn't rely on that. But yeah, it's a lot of JavaScript that you probably don't
yeah,
need. Like okay, so this is GitHub. I'm showing you this because if you have source maps turned on, you get this, which is really cool. So now I can go in and I can see, oh, the Octacons React. So yeah, it's a React app. And you can see React. So you can see like the biggest dependencies too if you have your source maps turned on, which is kind of nice. So if you're heavy into JavaScript apps, this is a really cool tool where you can see like, oh, what are my biggest dependencies? So like maybe you're accidentally loading in like all of Lodash, and you meant to only load in a specific function, or like it can tell you things like that, like you didn't tree shape quite the way you wanted to, or you're loading Stripe on a page that
yeah,
doesn't need Stripe, you know. Um,
yeah.
so these are like the first
I think it's
levels of
quite.
what?
I think it's quite robust. I mean, you call it first level, but I've never really seen this kind of depth
Yeah,
with
yeah.
checking this kind of performance audit.
I actually, so if you're first starting on performance, I actually prefer looking at this kind of stuff first before diving directly into IMP. Because like first, like clean up your dependencies. It's just especially if you haven't done it in a while, like maybe you don't need lazy sizes anymore, which was a lazy loading library because we have native lazy loading. So it's like you can just pull things out and that like reduces your overall JavaScript burden or budget, you know? Um, but once you're past that first level, you can do. You remember we have LCP subparts, but also in sorry,
Yeah.
this site is actually really good, so it's not. We might not even have any data. It's like this is a my friend runs an escape room in New Orleans, and so but the problem is I built the site, so it's really fast, so it's not a good example. It's a statically built. It actually has you know what's funny? The booking page is a React app, and it's a front end React app. It's not like server rendered or anything. I mean, but it is pretty basic. If I go to escapemyroom.com and buy tickets, this right here is a React app. So like selecting the jazz parlor at that time and then doing my payments and stuff like that. I built this a long time ago and it needs to be updated. But when I go to my performance metrics, I'm like, well, everything's great, so I shouldn't touch it. Like, but here's
And how
IMP. Oh, go ahead.
how are you able to? What technique do you use to be able to use just JavaScript on some part of the page?
Oh, well, I split it, so it's essentially like code split between pages. So all the rest of the pages are mostly static HTML and CSS. And then like a little bit of JavaScript, like for this. It's actually animates as well, but or you see like that thing popping in. That's just vanilla JavaScript. Like you can still write JavaScript. I don't know why people forgot. But
True.
everything else is that, and then only on this page does the React app load. It's the whole site is statically built. So what that means is and this booking page is calls APIs to our backend, but the front end is completely separate from the back end. We just hit APIs to the back end. So it's like Jamstack, if you've ever heard of that. JavaScript APIs and markup. Except I
I
have
don't
React
think
on one page. So it's
I
all
don't see people
pre-built
talking so
and
much
then just
about.
sitting on the server. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's nice. I was going to say that I don't see people talking a lot about Jamstack anymore. It looks like
I know they
the
don't use the word
Jamstack
anymore.
community is a bit.
I usually just call it like it's a static site. Like it's all pre like when the build step is done once, and then those pages are just sitting. This one's on Netlify, so they're just sitting in the Netlify CDN. So it's actually quite fast to load for multiple people,
No,
kind
okay.
of like Cloudflare pages. So yeah. So if we look at, I'm on the IMP page. This is in Rum Vision, and then they're too good. So there's not. Wait. I can go to technical, and then yeah, it gives me like distributions and stuff. And then oh yeah, good. We have IMP breakdown. Oh, we don't have elements because there's not enough IMP events because well, there's two parts. A, the site's fast, but B, also this is an escape room in New Orleans, and when it comes to the U.S. market, so you think of like tourists and people like that, they're more likely to have iPhones. So like the rest of the world, a lot of even high end phones are Android, but in the U.S. it's like heavily iPhone, and none of this data comes from iPhones. We can get TTFB and FCP from iPhones, but we can't get the rest because they're Chrome or sometimes Firefox metrics only. Um, and the Chrome or any browser on an iPhone is technically WebKit, which is like Safari under the hood. But what we can see here is these are IMP breakdowns in RUM data. So you actually can go a little bit deeper in your RUM data if you have it. This is not something that would be in the Chrome User Experience Report. You would have to collect it yourself. So we can see for the IMP events that are shown here, even though they're good, we'll pretend like this is bad. 10% is input delay. So that means input delay is like I clicked on a button, but some other JavaScript is still running. So I can't start the script that's supposed to start when I click the button. That's an input delay. That's
Hmm.
usually like you just got too much JavaScript. You need to like reduce it, or maybe they clicked really soon after load and it's just not finished with the giant load of JavaScript. There's various things you can do there. And the processing time, that's usually like your actual script running time. So if this part is really long, you would look at the code itself and like trying to understand why it's processing so long, and could you make it faster? Could you for these, like, could you yield to the main thread for your other scripts more often so that they're not blocking the main thread? And then the last one is presentation delay. So like how long it took to re-render after the script was done. So there's various reasons, associated with each of these. Henri said rip Jamstack. So yeah, sorry, I don't really have enough data in here. They have they also have, you can see the individual elements usually in REM tools. It's just we don't have enough data on this site. I need to get a better example of a
That
shitty site, but I don't want to have to pay for it. So
that's good. I think it goes to show how good your work is. So anyone watching, if you need to improve your web performance, reach out to Sia.
yeah, yeah. I also teach workshops and whatnot. The next one's going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. But for the world, in case you're in Atlanta, Georgia in November,
Oh,
I'll teach a
nice.
workshop.
But do you also do the workshop, like just you organizing, or is it from like conferences and
It's a
specific?
conference. It's Connect Tech. Yeah. Yeah, on my own, I haven't done it. When I was at Shopify, I did some virtual virtual workshops. But I haven't done one where I'm hosting it just myself. I feel like I need to rebuild that following. But yeah.
Yeah,
Mm,
cool. That's that's nice. That's a lot of I think a lot of new data or new things that I have to
yeah.
take with me.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
what I
think
would say is like start with this. Start with rum to give your like directional clues. So that because you don't want to focus on everything, like focus on the worst thing first. Or if you've heard of the 80-20 rule, right? Like 80% of the problems come from like 20% of the issues. I said that wrong, but you
Yeah.
get the idea. Like, so like find the smaller number of like where you can like you don't have to worry about the rest of the things. These are the main issues. And then dive deeper in the lab tools. I should have flipped the order of these on here, but yeah. And then like with experience and research and a lot of googling, you'll get better and better at this in time. There's a lot of content out there, but yeah.
So do you have where you recommend to a specific place? I know there's web.dev from the guys at Chrome.
Yeah.
Is
Web.dev
that
is really good. There's also like several blogs and stuff I follow. So I'm gonna go. So my website, you can find more about me at sia.codes. And I added a blog role to my site. Although this is not just web performance. I also just like building with Eleventy or like building websites still. But some of them are in here. Like Caliber has a blog and a newsletter. Oh, I should have mentioned them too. They're another provider. Harry Roberts, he has a great site. Tim Cadlick, Speed Curve has a great blog. Yeah, and a lot of these others are either like CSS or Eleventy or other things. So here's a lot of the blogs and stuff I follow. I didn't put web.dev in there, but it does have good content, especially for speed. So it looks like.
oh, Lynn Fisher sounds like a familiar name. The
Oh,
one
she has
I've
an
been used.
amazing. She rebuilds her site every year, and it's really cool. So like, wait, I forgot how this starts. It has some sort of like animation, but I'm like, how do I get it to trigger?
Yeah, I think that's how I remember it with the animation. A lot of stuff
Yeah.
too with CSS.
I don't know why. If is it broken? Maybe I have to click on her or something. I forgot how this works. Anyway, she rebuilds it every year, and it's really cool. Actually, you can see like this is, David Rose from what was that show? You can dress them, and like she builds just like fun stuff like this. Uh, oh,
That's quite
oh,
cool.
season one, season two, season three. What's the one where they live in a hotel? They were rich people and they lived in a hotel. Who were rich people, but they lost all their money and they live in this motel in the country. I forget the name of it, but it's a really good show.
I don't know the show. I didn't watch
um,
the show.
maybe someone watching remembers the name of it. Actually, you can just Google David Rose and probably find it. I'm so bad because I forgot the name of this show. Schitt's Creek.
Wow.
It was really funny. Anyways, that's way off topic. But yeah, those
So
are some of the
no,
blogs I
could you
follow.
share?
What?
Could you share
What?
this website? I think this tree.sh, the one
Oh
I think you
yeah. I think
recommended
I
it.
dropped it in the chat
I
earlier. I
didn't see
didn't.
it in the chat.
Oh yeah. It's in the chat. Trio/site speed. If you just go to, so it's trio. They have a service, like a tool, like they actually have a product. Maybe it's also run. I actually don't know. I feel bad. I just use their tool because it's an easy way to use Crux data. Um,
Uh,
but uh, but yeah, it's the same as if you were. I have it here. Like here's the Crux dashboard. So like here is maybe the. Oops. You have to like put your site in there and then launch. It's just a little bit slower. That's kind of annoying. So I almost never use it. So if I go to like you have to put the whole thing. HTTPS. Sometimes I have enough data for Crux. So like you see like it's in Looker Studio, so it takes a little. I hate Looker Studio. I mean like it's great, but it's annoying. It's kind of slow. So I like the other because it's like cached. Is that like, what is this? Oh, I have no data for August. Is that what that means? Whereas like I could just go on here and put in sia.codes and it's like almost instantaneous. And look, there's August data. It's like still loading. Where did I put that? Too many tabs open. Oh, there it is. uh, oh, maybe because I don't know. I have a tech blog, so it's like it's actually mostly desktop traffic, which is not typical for most sites. Jose loves Schitt's Creek. The important things that we talked about.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, those are tools for. There's also Search Console. So if you are worried about SEO and web performance, the it's the Chrome User Experience Report data that is what's used in your, like, that's what Google uses. They're not doing some different measurement. They're not using Lighthouse, but you can actually go to the Web Vitals part of your Search Console to see your the data. This is my blog, so it's a static site built with Eleventy. It has almost no JavaScript except for like a bunch of analytics, so I can test out performance analytics tools. But like it's so like all the URLs are good, but this would tell you which ones like are not good, which is kind of handy. And this is not interesting because they're good. um, so yeah, I am building. I can give you a preview. Wait, do I have my server running?
Your own
I
web
am building.
performance product.
Huh? A local host 8080. I'm building this page to actually, so you can access Crux data and HTTP archive data in BigQuery. So I'm building this page. It's going to have like a summary here. But for Shopify themes, so if I go to Dawn is the one that's built by Shopify, and it's like the most popular one because it's a free theme. And you can see like, oh, its performance is pretty good. So I have this is like aggregated data of all the websites using Dawn that are in the Chrome User Experience Report. But then I can look at some other ones, and you can see like, oh, well, they have an issue with actually first contentful paint looks like it's the biggest problem with this site, and then probably largest contentful paint because of that. So it's like to help. The idea is it will help the theme developers notice, like, oh, across all these sites, because they don't necessarily look at the data for all their individual sites, but this is aggregated across all the origins in Shopify. So yeah, I'm building this. It's exciting, and hopefully I'll have a version out soon that I can share.
Nice. Please
Yeah.
share so we can follow.
Yeah. I'll post it on LinkedIn and Mastodon. Sorry, I'm not on the Twitters anymore. But yeah,
That's fine. At least we are connected on Twitter, on LinkedIn, so I will
LinkedIn. Yeah,
prefer to
yeah.
see.
All my socials are on sia.codes. Uh, I also have Blue Sky, but it's like mostly shit posts, so I don't put that on here.
I have Blue Sky, but I barely check it.
Yeah. I get all my memes and like politics over there. But if you want tech
Nice.
content, Mastodon and LinkedIn is gonna be better.
Have you tried AirChat?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, I think it's not so recent, but I think I don't know the developers, but I think Naval Ravikant is probably an investor or part of the team, and he talks
Mm.
about it a lot. It's more like just video, audio, tweeting, no text.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I would want that. I'm the person that has everything muted when I scroll. But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have threads either, but I know some people are on there. I don't know. It's community is all broken up now. It's sad. Anyways, I guess that's
Uh,
We're over.
Yeah, so we're up on time. Do you have any book apart from the resources you shared to recommend about web performance? I mean, not just about measuring, but also I guess having understanding the basics could help people also build this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of resources. Like if you want to like basics, there's like for example on web.dev, I think they have um a free like tutorial or course around web performance. I think Jeremy Wagner wrote it. Web.dev performance tutorial. Yeah, learn performance. And then Scott Jail did one so a few years ago. I don't know where that one is. Maybe Henri has that one. I'm trying to think of like free things that are still up to date that are online. Otherwise, you just kind of um, yeah, you kind of learn it one by one. It's actually probably easier to learn like to jump to a section like as you're dealing with that. Because with all learning, and this is what I go through in my workshops too, like when I do workshops, I try to have actual activities because you don't learn just by reading. You forget most of that. You actually have to apply it. So it's like if you remember when you learned to code, the things that stuck
Yeah,
or when you tried to build with that tool. So like when you actually try to make something fast, that's when you'll learn it. So it's like, hey, you go to your website, you notice that you have an issue with FCP. So I need to understand, you need to come in here and then you learn about like understanding the critical path. And some of these first ones are going to be better. Uh, Whereas, wait, is that where it ends? Um, yeah, or I guess these are kind of big stuff like code split, JavaScript, and stuff. But yeah, otherwise, I'd say like if you have access to a workshop you can do with, I think Tim Cadlick sometimes does them too at like conferences and stuff. I haven't seen one in a while though. There's also, if as you get it more into web performance, there's also a Slack around web performance. So that's something you can get into, and it's quite active. People ask questions and stuff. And, yeah,
yeah,
and follow
awesome.
the at least on Mastodon, you can follow hashtags. So I follow the WebPerf hashtag, so I can see like all the stuff that comes up, even if I don't follow the person. And
Also on LinkedIn.
I don't know. Because LinkedIn is like it's like the capitalist version of it. Like people trying to sell their services. Like yeah, you can follow people and
Yeah,
you can follow some of those same people, but it's not like if you're an engineer trying to learn, it's not always like it's not targeted to you. It's targeted more to like business people. So I would say like
true.
the blogs and like the mastodons, maybe the Twitters. If you can find the same people on there on X, then
Yeah, but I think on X the algorithm is a bit messed up. You just have to figure out a way to maybe create your own. Forgotten what they call it, like a list, so you can just stay up to
mhm.
date rather than the link Twitter algorithm. Night.
Yeah.
Any other thing you'd like to plug about yourself, your work, so people can
Yeah,
find you?
I mean, you can find me at sia.codes. I mentioned that. I mean, it's also like we already put the roles links in there. So, yeah, it was fun chatting. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the time. Sorry for the LinkedIn folks because I just realized he wasn't streaming on LinkedIn. I couldn't figure it out. I tried to go live, but apparently I clicked the wrong button. But I try again next week and see you next week or in 2 weeks. We have another conversation about web application security as it relates to CDNs. So if that sparks your interest, see you next week and thanks a lot for joining, Sia.
No, thank you for having me, Peter.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.